Gary Davis is a stuntman who collects vintage bikes.
I always had a lot of bikes. I mean, when I say a lot of bikes, for me it was a lot of bikes. I had 5 or 6, and I thought that was really cool at the time. All of a sudden I was up to like 20 bikes and then 30 bikes, and now it's 246 or 247, I'm not sure. I like all my bikes for different reasons. Most of my bikes are racers. A few of them have racing history. Some of them are important to history. The red bike up at the top is a YBS 1R. It's the first production road racer that Yamaha built.
Gary was able to acquire a basket case Vincent and intends to rebuild it.
They were a big bore motor in their day. They were 998 cc's. Really smooth, although their clutches aren't as strong as you would like. They're really smooth and smooth shifting motorcycles. When they're running, they're absolutely no vibration at all. And mine has lightning wheels on and stuff, which are the racing wheels. And we just respoked them and stuff. I've been wanting to try and get a whole bunch of it put together.
Restoring motorcycles or building one from scratch is something that Gary Davis does to escape the high-pressure world he works in every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap.
Gary is in what he calls the picture business. He makes movies. And not just everyday run-of-the-mill Hollywood films. He's the guy that puts the buster in big-budget blockbusters. From Terminator 2 to Predator 2, Against All Odds to Proof of Life, he's one of Hollywood's top second-unit directors, and hands down the best stunt coordinator in the business.
I was fortunate that a man named Kerry Lofton and another man named Paul Knuckles both took me under their wings and gave me lots of opportunities to show what I could do, and in the process taught me other things. So I got to do a whole lot of car jumps and wrecks and rolls and flips, and I got to do lots of stuff. And then I hooked up with Peter Fonda and doubled him through a few of his movies, and that was a nice run because he did everything, and so I had to be able to do everything.
Gary's start in the stunt business followed his career as a world record motorcycle jumper. In the 70s, he was known as Super Gary Davis. He teamed up with Rex Blackwell and performed their jumps together, jumping head-on at a combined speed of over 100 miles an hour.
We came from 2 different directions and passed in the air, just to be a little bit different, because there were a number of jumpers at that time.
It was during one of these performances that Gary became the first jumper to ever break one of Evel Knievel's long-distance jumps.
Evel set his 19-car record at Ontario Motor Speedway at the Miller 500 in March of '71. So Rex and I came back in March of '72 at the same race, the same track, same crowd, and made it 21 cars. And so now Evel and we had this rivalry going, But I didn't get to meet the man till years later when I was in the picture business.
Gary's first big break came on the classic motorcycle movie Viva Knievel, where he actually jumped as Evel, coordinating and doubling for the world's greatest daredevil. One of the most amazing things about Gary Davis's motorcycle jumping career is he made 326 public jumps and never, ever crashed until he was paid to crash when he became a stuntman.
There are tons of motorcycle riders that are more talented than I. I didn't practice a whole lot because I figured that was just using up my luck. But I always used a speedometer. In fact, when I started jumping British bikes, when I jumped the Triumph or the BSA, they have a rear wheel speedometer, and I always ran my Honda front wheel, which had a front wheel speedometer. So I always had 2 speedometers. And I think if both speedometers say I'm doing 75, there's a pretty good chance I am. And so I can pretty much pinpoint my landings. But things happen to you in the air, and you have to make adjustments and stuff, and it's just one less thing to think about. Well, I know I've got my speed at least. Now I'll just ride the bike.
Today, Gary has been lucky enough to still have his jump bike. He has it on display in his 20,000 square foot garage on his ranch in Northern California. It's just one of over 300 motorcycles he's collected over the years, including his first bike.
I got my first motorcycle when I was 15, and it was that bike, the Tohatsu 50. And then when I was 16, I got a 160 Honda, which I rode to high school and back. And that's what I started practicing my wheelies on.
Growing up, Gary didn't realize all the things he did as a child would one day all play a part in his career. From riding bikes to riding cattle, those early falls turned him into a real-life fall guy. Today, Gary carries on that tradition as he teaches and trains amateurs, stuntmen, and even celebrities motorcycle riding skills.
My days when I was jumping, and I would intentionally.
Gary taught actor Lorenzo Lamas some of the finer points of jumping a motorcycle for a live network TV broadcast.
From there to 8 feet back, I get a really smooth in.
Lorenzo had never made a professional motorcycle jump in his career. But after a few lessons and lots of practice, Lorenzo learned a few of the secrets from Gary and was able to make the jump successfully. Gary eats, breathes, and lives motorcycles. His ranch is built to support his hobby. His garage has over 300 bikes on display, and he has almost every tool you would ever need to work on a motorcycle. Need a part? Not a problem for Gary. He goes to auto parts garage sales and has just about one of everything. He has over 100 bikes in the back of his garage to be used for parts or waiting for him to start restoration. He works on 2 or 3 major motion pictures, plus 5 to 10 automotive commercials every year. You wouldn't think he has a lot of free time, but when he has a moment...
Most of the time I'm in the shop here. I enjoy just tinkering on my bikes or building some new little piece for them, or helping out a buddy if they've got something they want me to fix.
Coming up next, Gary Davis tests his restoration skills with a Vincent.
I've never ever touched a Vincent before this. I'm not touching it quite blind. At least when you buy a puzzle in a box, you know all the pieces are there.
That's when a Bikeography continues. This is the workshop where Gary Davis restores classic motorcycles. His current project is particularly difficult, a vintage Vincent Rapide, which he is combining with parts for a Black Lightning model.
A very good friend of mine had invested a lot of money and time in getting all the pieces for this, and he unfortunately was killed on a motorcycle not too long ago. And so I bought this project from his wife. I'm still trying to assess whether all the parts are there.
Complicating the restoration is the fact that this Vincent was completely disassembled into 8,000 parts, all of which were individually packaged.
Interesting project for me because I've never ever touched a Vincent before this. I'm not touching it quite blind.
The previous owner also purchased 3,000 new parts. There was a lot of duplication.
It's a bit challenging for me. It'll take me far more time than it would if it were a BSA, a Triumph, or a Honda.
Without any clear guide to the thousands of scattered parts, Gary is literally piecing together a puzzle.
Bottom of that goes the shock. I'm having a little bit of trouble here because the only literature I have on it is of a much older model. Even the front end's quite different. The main components are certainly here. On the Vincent, they have very few frame members. This is the rear swing arm section. The backbone of the whole thing is this oil tank, and the front end goes on. That's really the only frame members there are. The engine becomes a very integral part of the structure of the motorcycle.
Luckily for Gary, his friend, Al Kasner, shows up just in time to help.
He has a nice Vincent, so he's got the knowledge of having taken his apart before. So these kind of things don't go there, huh?
Those are axle bolts.
At least when you buy a puzzle in a box, you know all the pieces are there. And
you hope.
They're hard to put together, but there's not usually a piece missing. We have a few pieces missing and then some duplicate puzzle parts. I also guessed that this is this side, and that's that side. That seems sensible.
No. This is this side. Riding.
Oh. You're right.
Using Al's bike as a model, Gary tries to figure out where some of his pieces go.
Right here. These are covered on yours with a chrome cap.
Yeah, that's right, there is. Similar to these, but they're not.
Are they like this, only mine aren't chrome?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm polishing up the caps.
You got 6 of them?
I have 4 of them. These are the kind of things that I would expect he would have bought new. I think a lot of the parts are still in his garage, safely tucked away.
Here they are.
The what, the caps?
Yeah, everything's here. Nice, pretty
New
stainless,
ones?
stainless, brand new ones, yeah.
That was a waste of time.
Progress in putting the Vincent together is painfully slow, and a lot of it is hit and miss.
37.2, 37.5.
That's a bigger diameter, isn't it?
With all the difficulties Gary has encountered, it could end up taking a year, not 3 months, to complete the restoration.
If I'm just restoring something, then it's just wonderful to see it back in its original shape or form. The satisfaction is actually seeing it become a motorcycle, to become something of value, of use. Now, if I hide Alan's bike and I just go, ta-da! Would it fool you?